Hello and welcome to the first match of the losers bracket of the Gladius 2025 1 vs 1 Invitational on standard speed. Today we have a match between Thentox, who will be playing as Tau, and TIDAL, who will be playing as Astra. And I'm Patuljak. With me are Red Lagger, who's gonna say hi.
Hi.
And Jonatan, who's gonna do something similar.
Yo.
Oh yeah, he's gonna go in style. And I think we're ready to start. So let's. So the most important thing is that TIDAL has opted to go with the dark red color, while Thentox has opted for the white. So very interesting from the get-go.
It's a rough spawn for Thentox here.
It does. Oh, very cold.
Very cold, yeah. The first one this tourney, actually. So interesting. I'm not sure why he did it. It's probably all the forum around him. The TIDAL is not happy with Thentox for calling a rare. Looks like he was happy about his spawn.
The TIDAL spawn was like fine. You can do basically what you want with the spawn. He doesn't see much of it though.
Alright, we hosted. So
is
Thentox...
it the same IP?
Oh yeah,
it is. Nice.
Should be. So Thentox used up his remake. Each player gets one, and it must be called at the end of turn 5 at the latest. And it's important to, especially when trying to play competitive Gladius, to enable remakes. It's something we also do in random lobbies, because sometimes you just don't get what you need to function early on, or you spawn like in deep forest or on a cliff overlooking a sea, which is admittedly rare nowadays because we modded in the ultra high landmass option, but still bad spawns are very possible.
Yeah, especially in the format where people play 3v3. That's when the remakes happened a lot.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's like two enemies are closer to your ally than you are to the ally, right?
The spawn gen is not ideal in this game, so the more players involved, the more it has a tendency to be shitty. Okay. So we'll start as soon as TIDAL readies up. And much better for Thentox now.
More interesting, yeah.
Well, Astra also has a very tempting 40% science and an ore field not so far, but the
is
question
she gonna go
is...
here? Or here? I think it's gonna be one of the two.
I think he's gonna have to go either probably here. Because for the standard Tau opener you need 3 slots total. So you want to open up book on the tile you settle, so you don't want to settle on rocks, because otherwise the timings for builder drone are slightly off. If you don't do it like 3 slot tile, book, take tile, or barracks, and then you get the builder drone timing exactly as long as you've settled on wall.
And additionally, the rocks feature is not as useful for Tau, like for example for the Astra, because your crane and HQ is giving you less base resources, right? The ore, so it is less valuable to place your cities on rocks as Tau compared to the Astra.
In the middle of nowhere.
Sorry?
TIDAL went in the middle of nowhere. There's no outpost. Just Arctic, nothing else.
Yeah, but he did take the fermentation, which let him see the ore field on volcanic, which is very strong for vehicle strategies, especially in combination with 40% science. TIDAL does opt
but
for
it's
an
gonna
interesting spot to settle.
It's gonna be a rough game to play Vehicle Astra versus Tau.
Yeah.
I mean, it does appear that Astra will go for the rush with the vehicle path. Looking at the ore extractor spawn. Start.
It's interesting that he didn't opt to take a tile and build an ore on it. Does anyone have any ideas what the thinking behind that is?
Mm,
I don't know why.
no, I
just
don't know.
here.
It is very hard for me to judge.
Either there or like one of these.
Yeah, I mean I guess the rocks are awkward for him. I guess he wants to get to building as soon as possible and minimize time taking tiles. So maybe we'll be seeing some closely refined rush build. Because that's the only reason I can think of personally to do so. Because the 20% ore on an ore you built this early on as the first building, the 20% does add up over the course of the game.
Yeah, I'm the only explanation I can see, I can give you right now is that he will expand on this tile, and Astra will
Give
go
an
for
armory
the.
and then the settler building.
I think yes, but it would still be better to expand there, right? First, and then put ore extractor there with the manufactorium. The only explanation I can give you right now is that he might he opted for the double manufactorium start for the ultra early game rush, right? As
Could be,
Astra.
because that is the weakness of Tau, especially on standard, getting rushed early on. And Astra does tend to have a rough matchup if playing vehicles into Tau, because they do not get away to circumvent the range damage reductions that some of the units that can be very effective against vehicles rely on to survive into Tau Astra. So could just be the rationale. I'm just not gonna go there. I'm just gonna try to rush him down and not play the game that he wants to play. Because I think Tau is always happy to go into late game against Astra. Except maybe against.
When I talked with Thentox did comment that when he is playing as Tau, he has big problems to deal with Rogaldon. It's a tier 8 unit tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not proficient with Tau, so it's hard for me to judge. And I was not on the. And I very rarely got to the Rogaldon myself.
Yeah, I think
Maybe you know better, Patuljak?
Tau in general has an issue when it comes to like tier 8 plus units, because those units tend to just be too hard to kill to achieve with the tiles that Tau needs, because there is no outright super nuke unit, so to speak, in the Tau roster that can like 2 or 3 shot such units. But I think this being standard, like TIDAL does have a good spawn for attempting such a tactic, but on standard speed, trying to rely on a tier 8 unit as the cornerstone of your strategy is not gonna work out well, I think.
It will end badly every time.
So I think the better option, I mean, he does have a good spawn for lemon rushes, if he could have tried to rush lemons, and then maybe transition into Robo Dorn if the game goes on, but I think playing lemons into Tau can be quite hard, because they can be demoralized via the Tau faction ability pretty cheaply. They have very low morale pool. So Thentox does have another ore field south and a shard north on Volcanic. Also has some desert around. So I think he's pretty happy, or should be pretty happy with his spawn.
I suspect that Thentox will put his cities there and there. Thentox loves to put his cities in triangle, very close to each other, so cities can support each other, right?
Yeah, I think that's very important for Tau. By the way, let's take care to remove the old newbie set, so it doesn't get too crowded. But the better tactic if you want to make a defensive triangle is to put the cities that are gonna be in front, make it 2 cities in front, because that way you get, like, for example, if Thentox settled, let's say here, which is not the best spot for a city, but it would be viable. if an enemy approached through this forest, he would get caught in overlapping Overwatch from 2 cities. While if you place 2 cities in the back, that is much less likely to happen because the enemy can just approach from the front and deal only with 1 city Overwatch. So I think if you're doing the triangle, it's best to do 2 cities in the front. But I mean, in any case, you do benefit with pretty much every faction from putting your cities up close.
Yeah, so you can easily defend this, and you do not have to split your army to defend two different cities, while not knowing where enemy is gonna to strike, right? Which city. Ooh, we see that TIDAL has some problems with Vespid Mafia.
Yeah, Vespid Mafia taking names, killing units, as we saw last game in the Exorcist versus Bulkiwinkle match, where Bulkiwinkle lost, I think, 3 Necron warriors to Vespids.
Yes.
And then also Exorcist lost the Datasmith to them, so the Vespid Mafia is real. It's not a conspiracy, people. Watch out.
really dangerous neutral.
Yeah.
Surprisingly tanky and deals a lot of damage.
I mean, I think currently the most hated wildlife is Poxwalkers. A lot of players tend to complain about them just because early
They
on...
just take a long time to go through. But the Vespids are more dangerous.
The Vespids
but I think it's not so much the stats, it's the hit and run, ignore zone of control. That's the issue from them. They can go whatever they want around.
Yeah, the jump back ability does let them circumvent any terrain, so if they have that on to escape, it can be rough, and it can also be rough if there are ruins.
But you also you can't like lock them down with zone of control. They will just run away if you don't manage to fully kill them.
Yeah, it's often, I find that when dealing with wildlife, if you cannot fully kill it, if like all your attacks are gonna leave it at very low HP, it's often better to just leave it at half HP and just skip, forgo some attacking so that it doesn't run away and you can cleanly finish it next turn. Often better than trying to chase it into God knows what.
What's the hybrid build from the title? That's interesting.
So Thentox does manage to grab an early relic, which, while not as vital for Tau as some other factions, is always nice to have, especially when you get those expansions up. So nice. I would say that the first 20 turns went nicely for the Tau player. While Astra now has a Chimera to help clear and transport those starting guardsmen around, which will help a lot because the clear with just the 3 guardsmen, especially if you don't take grenades, which you usually don't, if not going for infantry, it can be rough. It can be very hard to clear efficiently with those 3 guys, in my experience. What do you think, Lagger? You play a lot of Astra, right?
Yeah, so
disable his barrack.
So yeah, that's very strange that he built the barrack and then he disabled this. I mean, he's probably trying to conserve power. But looking at the clear with a guardsman, you do kinda want to clear a similar to Eldar, where you take the outpost, and then you leave this outpost, like you surround this outpost out of the vision of the neutrals, and they will walk into you. And this way you can overwatch with your guardsmen. Because clearing with guardsmen where you just walk into the enemies, you will often take heavy casualties. Right? If you just walk into the overwatch of neutrals. Unless it's dogs, of course. Dogs are easy to clear as the Astra. If you have 2 full HP guardsmen. But every other neutral is kinda hard to kill with 1 guardsman. Like, you like 1v1? I believe that you can only kill the no-fight hybrid with a guardsman. Nothing else.
And even that is reliant on the timing of their buff with the range damage reduction, I'd imagine.
Yes.
But yeah,
So
often, I think a lot of newer players don't realize that neutrals have their own vision range, and if you go outside of it, it doesn't have map hack. It's gonna assume that you went away and jump straight into your Overwatch. So that can be a very good way to.
Yes. For example, if you click on whatever neutral, you will see what they see right now. I don't know if you know this, but you can check this out. And the gates show vision too, so if you're running away from neutrals, watch out for the gates. Don't stand near them.
It's important to know
They
that
see
the
you.
vision between different packs is shared. So what one neutral can see, all of them can see. Thentox opting to clear the Scorpion or Catachan lair early on, which can be a good call, since if you wait too long they can multiply quite a bit, but some factions don't want to do this early on. Tau is not one of them because they can just hit the hits from them with the drones. So often beneficial for them to do it early. While the Astra player TIDAL has also encountered a lair, but we'll see if he wants to take that on or maybe change course. Thentox had some initiative to clear the lair since it was the last one left back in this gaggle of outposts, so to speak.
Yeah.
He would keep taking it if he didn't clear it. And he did clear
We can
everything
see.
else.
We can see that TIDAL lost the guardsman to the neutrals.
Oh, I didn't manage to record that. The Catachan and the Raspit, I assume.
Yeah, there was a low HP guardsman there, and he got double hit.
Well, on the upside, he has more food to build guardsmen now. I'm not sure what his plan there is, food-wise, because he did not seem to spawn many good food piles. Maybe we'll see him settle something. But this does confirm to me that we'll be seeing aggressive tactics from him. And if you manage to find the opponent early on with some chimeras and some guardsmen, it can be pretty scary to face. And Hydras, currently he's producing a Hydra. Hydras also tend to perform well against Tau, since they have Skimmer overabundance.
Pretty much every unit is skimmer, right? Expect Fire Warrior.
All the vehicles and half the monsters, I think. Half the non-vehicles.
And the drones as well.
Yeah, the drones are.
Generally, when facing Tau, like, I think most good Tau players will go for a mixed build, so it can often be easy to build for, so to speak. Like, if you're Necron, you're always gonna be like, okay, I want some snipers, if nothing else, to deal with the Fire Warrior screen and the drones. And it's always gonna be useful to do so, which is not something you can say in all matchups.
Yeah, to some extent Tau is predictable.
I mean, they always make infantry, right? It's just whether they mix it with monsters or vehicles.
I mean, I've been seeing on fast speed some no infantry builds, either pure Arsenal, Skyray, or Hammerhead, and more often Skyray, or a mixed Crisis Center Arsenal build. But I think both those builds, while you can win with them, are inferior to the mixed build, just because of the way Tau functions and is designed.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly you have to rely on your ally, right? Support to get a good job done.
They also need
wins.
the sky race. They need the marker drones, and for marker drones you need the infantry. The monsters you cannot start building them until you take level 4. That's pretty late to start making units.
Thentox, it looks like your prediction was correct, Lagger. He did settle similarly to what you predicted earlier. Looks like he wants to utilize that ore with both cities. 20%, which I think has a little bit of dubious value since it's just 20% and he's not gonna build more than 2 ores, most likely. But I guess
maybe he will opt for this.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. That's pretty much the best you can do as Tau, unless you actually set.
I mean, that's a good tile for an armory and the ore mine.
Yeah, I think
I
Tau
will-
usually wants to do break the Utopia rule and produce double ores, because in mid game, if you don't lose your ore upkeep units, ore is what gates you from how to say it, from achieving an even bigger army size, because it tends to get quite low when you have like 6 or 8 tanks.
I am a little bit surprised because I thought that Thentox will put his city there and get the power building on his third city, and he would build the. Oh, he opted for the crisis center, Visa.
Yeah, looks like we'll be seeing suits for him rather than tanks.
So that's why he opted to build the energy main, because he probably couldn't build this building yet. I understand.
It's also important to let the expansions catch up on barracks, because of the fact that you have to split the production style. So it's often best to do the support buildings that you need to keep functioning in the main, while you let the expos catch up and get their 2 barracks up. I have been talking to Thentox a little bit about that. So I do think that's the rationale behind it. But we'll see what he decides to do. He does queue barracks in his third. Already has one in the second. It's adding a crisis center, so currently on 2 productions and adding 2 more. While the Astra player is currently adding his second manufactorum and also has a barracks up. So gonna be 3 production next turn.
But the barrack has been turned off for majority of the game, I think.
Yes.
Yes, that's a good point.
There is only one guardsman coming out of the barrack. Did game.
Yeah.
I mean, I suspect that what is TIDAL going for is the horses, the cavalry, to deal with range damage reduction.
Yeah, that would be very nice. Counter the suits that Thentox is planning on making, but it does seem questionable to make the barracks so early then, if you're not gonna produce from it. And turning it off also worsens your food, because the barracks do give food. It's basically the same building as the Drukharii barracks, 1 population, 2 food. So it's quite strong for getting a lot of productions up very fast, because it delays
It's
the
not
time
good.
that you need. It delays the food that you need to build.
Yeah, and you don't have to build the pop building. The only explanation I can give you right now is that TIDAL is trying to save the energy, right? By disassembling the barrack.
Yeah, but he expanded, so he doesn't need it anymore.
He already afforded with that settler.
Yeah. The players do meet. While we were analyzing the ecos, we missed that. So now, no CMOF is called. Players seem content on keeping farming.
I don't think Title can fight in this position, not with the neutrals behind.
And the catagens that were triggered go into the basket. A little bit unfortunate for Thentox.
That's got punished by TIDAL hitting the. Oh, there is Overwatch. Ooh,
So that was a
almost
bit
a
of
Chimera.
funny interaction that happens when there's an Overwatch, and a unit enters the transport. It counts as having moved into the Overwatch, and the unit then shoots at the unit that is now inside the transport and hits the transport. So that's what we saw happen.
It's the same if you make if you settle a city while taking Overwatch, the city will be taking the Overwatch instead.
Yes, also true with Aldari factions. Because with other factions you have to walk a builder in. But yeah, with Elder, when you take the gate, it does not trigger Overwatch, but when you actually settle it, it does. So it's probably under the hood, there's probably a similar thing happening. I wouldn't know. Oh, and
Oh, the Chimera died.
that was very
The
painful.
catagens.
And especially considering that he wants to go for an aggro build, this is not particularly good news for the Astra.
There was a guardsman inside that Chimera as well.
Yes. So he lost 2 units to wildlife in one action. Not what you want to see. And Thentox does see the low morale on Hydra before, so he probably can deduce that the Astra lost some units. Probably pretty happy about that, I'd imagine.
I'm not sure if he could deduce this. He could. Might thought that because Katach and Devil has the Fear Aura, right? Where you lose 2 morale when you end the turn next to the Katach and Devil.
And
That's a good
combine this
point,
with
yes.
losing a couple of buttons from the guardsman.
But the Hydra does have 9 morale, so losing 2 morale would not be enough. It could be a combination of cards. I mean, you do have a point. He does not know for sure, but I think he suspects. And he has decided to add a hero building, the Tau, in his main, instead of a second production, unit production. Probably due to an overabundance of influence outposts around him, which is a smart call from him. Sometimes the map give it, and when the map give it, you take it,
Yes.
adapt, and make a hero.
We will probably see the early game, early commander gameplay. Maybe with full items.
And
Thentox likes to put the items on commander.
What is happening? TIDAL just drove a Chimera loaded with 2 guardsmen into Overwatch of XV8 and lost it. And Simov hasn't even been called yet. This is looking a little bit like a train wreck game, honestly, from TIDAL at this moment.
Yeah.
Things just not going his way.
Neutrals can be very scary in this game, and walking into the unknown sometimes can end very badly.
Yeah, but it really, he must be super red morale right now in real life, because he did lose both Chimeras and all the guardsmen that he produced, so that's really not a good spot to be in. It is Tau, so he probably knows that for some time he's safe, so he has some breathing room to rebuild and get a footing. But man, yeah, sucks. Just
Bad position for Astra right now. And Astra only has 2 cities for now, while Tau is sitting on 3 cities for some time right now.
yeah, I think he was a little bit too reckless, both with triggering the wildlife in the corner and walking into ruins where he saw Tau just 2 turns before. Because he did load up, I think, on this tile and get shot at by the XV8, so it was safe to assume that some units were there, and he just drove a low HP Chimera blindly into the ruins, and that's what happens, kids.
You need to watch out for the enemy. Sometimes enemies will put units in cheeky positions just to get the overwatch. Sadly, I believe that this to some extent how it's called.
I don't
Abuse,
think this
right?
was even cheeky though. Like,
I mean, it was not cheeky this way.
They contact and Thentox didn't move after making contact. He just keeps walking into the same units Overwatch.
For Thentox, he was just watching that, right? And then he just got the lucky hit. But some players do abuse this to some extent, and we do not approve this.
Yeah, I think Thentox wasn't expecting that to happen, even though he probably considered it a possibility, maybe get some free damage in, but I don't think he went into the lobby today expecting to kill a loaded Chimera with 2 guardsmen on Simon. That's not something that happened. But we are all human. Maybe the nerves are getting to TIDAL. I do know that he has been playing a lot of some other game lately, so maybe that's also showing a little bit. I think he plays games competitively, and sometimes you just don't have enough time to practice Gladius. And like
Yeah, you cannot be pro in every game, right?
Yeah, and you can, in my experience, you can see on managing wildlife if you're rusty or not. Because if you're in good shape, in good form, you usually manage wildlife like almost without thinking and almost without issues. But I mean, with certain factions more. Some factions are just notoriously hard when it comes to early clear, like Eldari.
Or Astra.
Or Astra, yeah, as we saw.
Or Ox.
Because you meant that it is hard, right? That's what you meant, or it is easy to clear.
Yeah, Ox are hard to clear, right? Because they are metal. they cannot chop down the bees.
Yes. When you're a melee faction and then you see flying units, you just scream internally.
So it looks like Thentox sees the first city that was just settled and decides that after getting those 3 picks, he wants to be aggressive. So he looks like he wants to push in into Astra space, which makes sense.
When Thentox gets the first ghost kill on Commander, we can see some siege, right? Because right now sieging city is kinda hard. With
Yeah,
those cliffs and choke points, it's very hard to approach the city.
and also actually killing a city with just like XV8 and some fire warriors, it's not gonna happen unless you really go all in and overwhelm the opponent. But we do know that TIDAL lost a second Chimera with a third guardsman in, but Thentox doesn't know that. So he's probably gonna be a little bit more cautious than he would be if he had perfect information.
He only knows half the casualties. He also lost the guardsman at the start.
Yeah, good point.
So he lost twice as much as Thentox knows.
The body count for Astra is high. But that was to be expected, right? That's how they work.
The average lifespan of a guardsman is very low on Gladius.
I mean, for all we know, they get born the way they come out of the barracks anyway. It's a funny little digital world. But yeah, in lore, Astra is definitely win by numbers. Who cares if some guardsmen die? They died doing what they're supposed to.
For the God Emperor.
For the Corpse Emperor. Oops, did I say that out loud?
Oh no, that is a heretic.
No, I'm innocent. Yeah, Thentox is trying to get some reactions successfully out of the Astra player with the drone, and thus hit the Overwatch with 1 Hydra and 1 city. Which makes, if he decides that he wants to go in right now, this makes approaching the city much easier. Also gives him some valuable information about enemy positions. He did backtack EMP grenade, which will be quite valuable in playing into vehicles and sieging a city. But he does seem to decide to hold off for now, not gonna go for risky moves even though he smells blood in the water. He's gonna play it safe.
Thentox is in a very interesting position right now, because if he managed to kill this bastion, and then he can position his army there, this way he can threaten both cities, while Astra will have some hard time to reinforce because of the cliff, right? Both cities. It will be much harder for the Astra to maneuver than Tau because of this cliff.
Yeah, and also as a bonus he would get the relic as long as he holds that position, which is also nifty. But does he know that? He does not know that there is a second city there. He does assume that there must be a city somewhere, but for now does not have vision of it existing behind the bastion. But we'll see what he decides to do.
But
I
he can
think
see the population of the bottom city, so he knows it's a pretty rich city.
yes. I mean, it's safe to assume you're playing into free city, right? Facing Astra vehicles.
Yeah.
And
Oh, he sees.
yeah, all that talk for nothing. He does find the city, and we'll see if he capitalizes on his dominant position by trying to establish a chokehold, or maybe eventually going right and clearing some more map, because that is also something very beneficial you can do when you manage to take some early picks and establish the dominant position. You can just make the enemy cover in the city while you clear the map uncontested and get an equal lead on the opponent. But it does seem that Thentox is currently more aggressively minded than that. And
This forest is also not helping Astra. Because Thentox can just creep on with all his units on this forest.
yeah, but I think he wants to be careful. He doesn't want to be caught in what we talked in the beginning of the game.
He
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
know if there's a
Crossfire with
unit
two
here, which
cities.
will give him overwatch from
Two
both
cities.
cities.
Sorry, John, didn't quite catch that.
I say, if the Astra had a unit here, then if he walks deeper to the forest, they will be overwatch from both cities on these tiles.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're not actually going for the city kill, I don't think there's, right now, any point for Thentox to go into that position.
Yeah.
I think it would be probably more beneficial for him to just clear that bastion, take that relic, but that also does not come without risk, because the space is currently limited. He would need a couple more turns to go around the cliff and actually develop his forces to clear that bastion efficiently. Or he would need to use some EMPs, but he would also take some damage in the process. What he would actually need is either a builder drone, which he does have, but not in position right now, to heal the units that will take the damage from the bastion and the city, possibly, or some hammerheads, or to take it apart safely from range. But yeah, clearing that bastion and holding that spot would put him in a quite a dominant position even more. Especially with this, I think TIDAL wants to clear that fire with, considering the situation, to be able to reinforce whichever city needs it.
Yeah, he cleared the first tile already, so it's safe to assume.
Yeah, the army upkeep for Astra is sitting at a modest 11.5 ore right now. Well, the Tau has managed to accumulate 21 from food units. Currently, and does have a ghost kill as well. So
6 or from more.
his army size is currently over 1 time as large as the Astra players. I said this a bit weird, hope.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
was
just
understood.
almost triple time. So almost the triple time of Astra upkeep right now.
It's like 2.4, right?
I think total Tau upkeep is near 30 right now, 25 on foot, and the ghost kill is 4 ore upkeep. Also, the builder is 2 ore upkeep, so you could say he has 30. And the Astra basically has a little bit more than 10.
But he only has 21.5 from the group.
Thentox does see
Now
all
he-
the
20.
all the hydras right now. He's thinking to engage.
Yeah, but the space is a little bit limited, and he will be exposing himself to the city attacks, which is something that TIDAL wants right now. Because being down in army size means that the city attacks that are normally quite strong are quite valuable to use while fighting the enemy forces. And the LOS seems to be a little bit weird. It seems that even if the city could see the Vespids on this tile, they could not shoot over the forest.
Can.
Because the force
It can.
It can.
If you click on the Fire Warrior and you click on the Vespid, then you can see that you can shoot city.
you're
But if you can,
you're correct. Yes.
You can also
Yeah,
just
so
click it by selecting the city and holding right click.
because the reason why it is not showing right now is
Lack of vision, yeah.
It's in,
yes, lack of vision.
yeah. But yeah, I think Thentox is in a strong position, but with limited space, Bastion blocking on the right, and basically free XV8, he does not want to attack just yet. He just wants to know what's going on, maybe gauge the size of the Astra force, maybe try to bait out some mistakes. Looks like he's baiting the Overwatch out with the drones, so he does want to go in. And the XV8 do quite well against Hydras because of their flamers. The Hydras being open topped, and we see a Demorale from Tau come in, raising the damage by 33%, which means that 2 XV8 can cleanly kill 1 Hydra. Looks like he will be using the Fire Warriors also to an Overwatch, which is a little bit awkward for him if he did not lose that model. I guess it doesn't really matter, just 2 damage difference. And manages to take it down using the range 2 of the XV8. Doesn't have a shield zone. With some more Overwatch, shields those XV8, and he might be content to just let it be for this turn and position to strike even deeper next turn. And TIDAL is not in a position that you would want to be in. He has to use some very good targeting priority here and some good positioning to outtrade the Tau and come back into the game, which will be hard, especially considering the Tau just spawned a Gunrick to help with the siege, along with the Ghost Kill being 2 turns away.
I believe that the best target is this, right? XV8. But it is very hard to approach this.
Yeah, the XV8 are shielded, which the 17% invul does make them quite a bit tankier. And the positioning is a bit awkward. If he wants to get some good firing lines, he's gonna have to expose his Hydras. And the lack of space, like the wire width here and the zone of control that the Hydras are exerting, is what's keeping him in the fight right now. If Tau had full access and unlimited space, he would just demolish those Hydras. Does put up a shield generator to try and help with the siege, mitigating some damage from the Tau. But it can be a double-edged sword, because if the enemy does manage to get into the aura range 2, he does benefit from it as well.
And his strongest attacks, which is the flamethrower, ignores during damage reduction.
Not against the Void Shield.
Oh, right,
It is
yeah,
not a
it's
range
facing
damage.
one,
It
okay,
is
yeah,
the
right.
invul.
I keep forgetting that one.
But yeah, normally flamers do ignore range damage reduction, which is quite valuable.
But
Honestly,
there is a one problem with this Void Shield, because it's not online. And Thentox can strike with XV8s this turn. Those Hydras.
yeah, I think he can kill one, but that shield drone, that shield drone will be.
He will disband it.
He'll probably need to disband it to get the Hydra kill, yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess he uses one XV8, one EMP, or not, doesn't even need the EMP, honestly, and then just goes for another kill. This Hydra, go deep. In for a penny, in for a pound. And 2 XV8 will be enough to cleanly kill it. And it's starting to look like the curtains for TIDAL in this
Oh,
match.
this Vespid blocking all the Hydras. And the right city still cannot help. The new form.
Yeah, the cliff is seeing deeper than the tiles right near it. So the crossfire didn't quite work out. The priests get pinned close to that. The 2 hydras remaining, he will be getting 1 more hydra coming out next turn. But even production wise, he doesn't even have the edict, I believe,
Manufactorium.
He has it, but he doesn't use it.
Oh, I see. Yes, he does have it, but he's not using it, which means that his free productions, he's currently behind Tao, who is sitting pretty on 5 productions, and also a hero. He did manage to produce a commander while all this was going on. Has some stealth suits, and yeah, we see TIDAL.
It is the fastest game, right?
Yeah, I believe.
Fastest win.
I'm not sure how long this was, but maybe half an hour, a little bit more. Maybe waiting for the game to actually start maybe took even longer. But yeah, an unfortunate game for TIDAL, and it will see him knocked out of the tournament.
It's been about 40 minutes since we started.
40 minutes, yeah.
Ooh, we see what happened. There was no tactics with the barracks. TIDAL, but just by accident he built the barrack.
Oh damn.
So I think I know what happened. TIDAL probably by mistake, because the barrack is very similar to Cult of Speed, the Cult of Mechanicus, right? And he probably mistook the symbols, and he built the barrack by accident.
I don't think his saltiness is that warranted here. I mean, of course, it's not fun to lose the game, but
it's understandable to some extent. It was a bad game to be in.
Yeah, but taking it out on Thentox, basically calling him a cheater is like...
Yeah, I don't think it's warranted. I agree. It's just the way people play nowadays, and I did put in the rules that I'm not gonna enforce. I do encourage, not cheesing, sim on, but like actually expecting people to turn off Overwatch is a little bit much, I think.
Yeah.
And definitely not enforced by the rules. So
it is very hard to judge if the Overwatch is warranted or no, right? Sometimes. Like for example, this example, it was.
I mean, if you see the enemy units and you want to walk around on the edge of where the enemy army is, you should call sims off before you do it, if you don't want to be overwatched.
I agree.
Yeah, I think this one is on TIDAL, honestly. Ideologically, yeah, in an ideal meta with ideal players would play honorably. Thentox would just move away, not try to scout and get information by standing in the ruins, but that's just how people play. And you can be salty about it, you can not agree with it, but that's just how it is. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Red Lagger and Jonatan for joining me. Hope you had fun, and see you in the next one.